Welcome to the EcoSend Podcast. Be inspired, educated, and entertained by the world's most ambitious leaders, putting climate at the top of their agenda. Hi there, welcome to another episode of the EcoSend Podcast. I'm your host, James, and I'm thrilled to bring you a show today, a podcast episode all about podcasting. And I'm speaking with Chrysa Sto, who is a seasoned podcast consultant and manager for ethical businesses. Chrysa works with human-centric marketers, coaches, and changemakers who want to connect with their audience, increase business leads, and expand their network through impactful podcast conversations. I'm so excited for today's conversation, Chrysa. How are you doing today? Welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, James. I'm thrilled to be here. So excited for the conversation, and I think we have a lot to share with your listeners.
Awesome. I was just speaking with Chrysa before we started recording, and I feel like we've already done a podcast talking about all of the ideas here, Chrysa. So I'm really excited to chat. It'd be great to hear a little bit more, maybe to start with. What are you up to today, in your own words? What are you working on? What are you doing day to day, Chrysa, that you're up to?
I'm working on. Thanks for asking. I'm working on, building relationships with my business because I'm in the middle of transition from being a freelancer to trying to go full time in my business.
Yeah.
So a lot of marketing stuff, a lot of marketing tasks and efforts and a lot of conversations, because I am a big believer of that in business, either you're an agency, freelancer, solopreneur, whatever business you have, you cannot do it like alone. Partnerships and people and conversations are what, in my humble opinion, what brings growth in one's business. So I'm working on that.
Yeah, amazing. It's no easy journey, right?
No.
So what has led you to be working what you're working on now, and what got you involved in it, particularly in the world of sustainability? I'm curious to hear how your journey progressed.
Yeah, that's a great question. So, in terms of sustainability, I've been always a minimalist in terms of like going for shopping, living sustainably, things like that. And this led me to discover my passion and love for living sustainably. Making an impact in terms of how I live and what I use, products, things like that. And bringing that into the business side, I thought, like, I've been in business for 5 years, and although my needs changed a lot all over these years, a year and a half ago, I thought, I want to have relationships, and I want to interact with people who share the same values with me. So I completely changed my niche and decided to work with people who are in the sustainability field, in the hard-led business field, people who have at heart ethics and who care about people and the planet. Yeah,
So this was very much from within, how you were living in your personal life. You wanted your
exactly.
business life to reflect that.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool.
Because we are in business like so many hours a day and every day. In my opinion, you need to, everyone needs to work with people who genuinely want to work with and who might have a coffee with them, unless like it was the business.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like you can't shut one off from the other, they have to
exactly.
both be
Yeah, it goes
mutually.
along. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Amazing. So I guess talking about your business today, really all around podcasting, talk to me about, you call it human-centric podcasting,
Yeah.
Chrysa. I would like to think we're a human-centric podcast, but maybe I've got it wrong. I don't know. I'm keen to hear.
Yeah, thanks for asking. Yeah, so this it's about the approach I have in my communications, marketing, and work that I do for my clients. So I like to think of podcasting as a way for people in business who want to expand their network, build relationships that lead to, you know, opportunities, referral opportunities, leads, things like that. So growth in terms of one's business. And I like to do this or help my clients do this from from a human-centric approach, looking from this lens, because it's easy to just start a podcast with a goal in mind to have money. Nothing wrong with that. So many people want to, monetize their podcast and make money, but when you start a podcast with a goal to make an impact, first of all, money will come along down the road. And second, you have a greater purpose that drives you, that drives all the passion and all the effort that needs to run a podcast, because it's a lot of work. You know it better than me. That is what the human-centric podcasting means to me. It's the approach that we take with my clients and people that I help over the years to run a podcast and to produce a podcast that speaks to their audience from within, and also helps them, growing their business depending on the goals they have.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm hearing there is it's very much about a podcast really thinking about the listeners and the audience first and foremost, and prioritizing that rather than, say, a podcast that's there to, we want to grow our business, let's do a podcast and hope that people will listen to it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm,
Yeah, and
yeah.
it's a combination. Actually, it's looking at this from the lens of like the listener perspective, and how we frame the podcast, how long the episodes are, depending on the specific audience that we have, and also looking at our specific goals, which might be like growing our business. It's nothing wrong with that. Again, it's a goal, but to grow your business through podcasting, you need to have a good look, a deep look into your audience, and listen to their needs, their feelings, and their desires or issues that you aim to solve, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I think there's a lot there that really resonates for me with how we've always tried to approach
Hmm.
our own marketing and like, our own podcast, but wider our own marketing at EcoSend, where, if you, I think a lot of people sort of, they put their marketing hat on when they're a marketer, but they forget that they're also a reader and like thinking about the audience as actual people. And um, I think it's just such a great way to produce much better quality content and work when you think about your audience as yourself reading it. Would I read this? Would I listen to this? Would I find this helpful?
Absolutely. Yeah, you
Yeah.
nailed it on that, because again, it doesn't matter if you put a podcast out there, and if you don't have like people looking for you every week or other week to consume content from you.
Yeah.
So yeah, it all comes down to building relationships, if you ask me, and this takes time.
Yeah.
It's certainly it's time consuming. It has a lot of work, but it's worth it, because it is a relationship that you build with someone who intentionally giving you their time. It's not
Yeah.
like scrolling on Instagram, which we all do, but
Yeah.
you're not like someone is not likely to build a relationship with a million like content creators that they see on their phone, or because you see a million reels and you just scroll mindlessly. But when you dedicate like 30 minutes of your time to listen to a podcast episode, you are likely to like the host or the topic.
I hope so.
Yeah.
No, that's a really good point actually, Chrysa, because yeah, we when podcasting is this wonderful medium where it's truly an honor to be in someone's ear for for 30 minutes, and there's not, when you think about Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Facebook, all of these platforms, you don't even have a second with
No,
someone,
you
and
don't even have a second. Yeah.
yeah, and that's I guess I don't know how much to dive into this side of things, but I guess one of the challenges, of course, with podcasting though is how it's a lot easier to be seen for a split second than to get
Yep.
someone to subscribe to a podcast. So I don't know, do you have any thoughts of how people can improve their chances of people actually finding and discovering their podcast in the first place?
Yeah. In terms of gaining subscribers, the most effective strategy that I always recommend, I always tell people, like it's no secret, it's to get people into your email list.
Mm,
Or if you have the time, bandwidth, like capacity and willingness, you can host like 15-minute connection calls with people who might be
mm,
interested to hear from you, connect with you, connection calls.
mm.
The second is more time consuming, although it's quite effective because you get to meet people like over video, but you get to meet your listeners, that you get to ask them questions, and in exchange you can offer advice on a specific topic that you can offer advice on. If you're a coach, business coach, whatever
Right.
you do, marketing. But in terms of gaining subscribers, what I've been doing with most of my clients is, again, bringing people into their email list with a freebie, with a resource that you offer in your podcast, and you have the link to it on each episode. And like to that, about that, what people tend to forget is that the fact that you have a resource and the link to each episode doesn't mean that people, know about it. So
Yeah.
it's good to remind people and talk like over and over again about this resource, so you have people sign up for it. Another thing you can do, or people can do, is have instead of like sending them just to a resource to sign up for, you can have a form to your website, a dedicated question form, question
Mm,
page, like web page to your website, where people can ask questions
mm.
via form, or something like a tool that allows them to record a voice note, something like
Right.
SpeakPipe, something like that, to
Yeah.
ask questions, feature them on your show, and
Mm.
have a consent like button that says that asks them to subscribe to your newsletter. This goes like, this is a double. Sorry, I'm trying to find the word, but it's a double benefit,
Yeah, double. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
because you also provide them with the room to get featured on your show.
Sure.
They ask you a question, they get answers to, and they also subscribe to your newsletter or whatever you have.
Yeah,
So you have them in your email list as well.
yeah.
And I think
That's
it's an overlooked strategy, because people think, yeah, but the sign up form, who is going to get there? But the answer to that, if you're thinking about this, is if you speak about this dedicated web page on each of your episodes, people will get there.
sure. Yeah. You're making me think, Chris, now that we need that for this show. So
Definitely,
you're
yeah.
it's a really good point. So I hadn't really thought enough about that sort of that
Yeah.
two-way conversation with listeners. What you're saying there is really for it to be genuinely much more of a conversation than
Yeah.
just the
Yeah,
get the host speaks and the audience listen. You're
exactly.
really inviting the audience to become part of the show, which I think is a really wonderful idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can send you afterwards if you want an example of a page that we crafted with one of my
Yeah.
clients. And so to add to that is that it's not only a two-way conversation, but it's again, you're gaining subscribers, they're getting answers to their questions, you're nurturing it, you're starting, not nurture, you're starting a relationship with your listeners. And this relationship can lead, like, you can even ask them questions in terms of market research afterwards while you're nurturing the relationship, right? And it's
Yeah.
generally okay. As it's okay to do that if they are giving consent to reach out to them or feature them
Sure.
or email them.
Sure. No, that's really, really inspiring, and you're making me want to go away and change the things up for this very show. What a cool podcast! I should have done this as episode one, Chrysa.
I'm happy that you
No.
like the strategy. Yeah.
So that's really, really cool to hear about. I guess there's tons more I guess we could talk about on the podcasting side of things, but overall I guess your view though is that podcasting is just a one of the best ways for brands to build an audience online and as a way of growing their business, it seems.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I guess one of the reasons we've done the EcoSend podcast
Mhm.
um is to really share stories and inspiration. And I think from our side, in the early days of EcoSend, we really wanted to talk to people that knew a lot more than us
Mhm.
about the world of sustainability. And I think for us, it was really just a great way to speak to people that may not have spoken to us before. And the fact that we were doing a podcast though gave the guest of the show a really good reason to join us, because it wasn't just speaking to us, it was a chance to raise their profile and speak to more people. So I think there's just so many aspects of this where I just
Yeah.
love the medium. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. I second that. Like, for people who are thinking to start a podcast and they are maybe battling, they're struggling, or debating about it. Again, what you said, the best, not the best tip, but what you said is like, you have the chance to speak to people who, if you haven't had the podcast, you might haven't had the chance to speak to them.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, yeah. It's funny, people are much more willing to speak in front of maybe thousands of people than just one to one, but
Exactly.
you'd have
Yeah.
thought it made people more scared, but no.
Because the other part, like just jumping on a connection call, it might make some people uncomfortable, you know.
Mm,
But if you are a guest on the show, the topic that you might speak, it's much more. It takes the pressure off,
yeah,
I think.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I guess what would also be really good to hear from you about, Chris, is your own journey and your own story. Um, you're not just focused on podcasting, but it's narrower than that. You're really focused on like this human-centric
Mhm.
marketing.
Yeah.
Um, Talk to me about why that is and why you went down that path.
Yeah. Um, Thank you for asking that question. So, I started the business about 5 years ago, and at first you don't know what you don't know, and you have so many things to learn and be exposed to, and a lot of information, a lot of new things. So, I've been exposed to unethical marketing practices and people saying things like, oh my God, I hate this thing, but I got to say it because it adds to the story. But I've been exposed to tactics like, you need to get the sale, and while in the discovery call, you need to get their credit card, things like
Mm.
that. And as much as I been like exposed to this information, I wanted to go the other way. So that's why I discovered, I actively searched about the opposite of that side of marketing, of that traditional marketing. And I discovered ethical marketing, which relates to a lot of people who are in the sustainability field. That plays also a role because, people who care about people usually care about the planet as well. They care for all of it. So that is why I started working with those people. I want to also, I'm starting a show as well. And I want to amplify those voices of people who are in the sustainability field and people who are in the ethical marketing and ethical business field. So, yeah, this is pretty much what led me to discover all of this, because I've been, fed so many in so many manipulated marketing tactics from gurus and things. And I wanted to it just didn't feel right to do this approach. And trust me, at the beginning, I tried not to be aggressive or something because it's not in my, character, but I tried to, find pain points, things like that. But I figured out, like, afterwards, like being in business 5 years, I realized that when people want to share with you what they're going through, if they think that you have something like a service or product that might help them, they are going to share. Um, Even if you just ask, you don't have to push people to do
Sure.
something or to decide, make decisions like during a discovery call. If I want to work with someone, and this is the approach I want for my clients as well, and I want to work with those people, if I want to work with someone, I take like deep consideration, I think on it, I sleep on it, and then I make the decision without the push, or without being sold to. I don't need to
Yeah.
push
Yeah.
me to do something or convince me.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm definitely seeing this more and more, this sort of rejection of more traditional marketing
Yeah,
and sales tactics. And I think it's just so much of that aggressive sell, 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 push, push, push in the world that, like, I think there's almost this backlash, this retaliation against that, which is to try to find calmer, more, I guess many would say, more ethical ways to approach selling and marketing. And
yeah,
I know that it can be a very difficult path to navigate for people, because as a founder, especially as a solo founder, it can be very difficult to for people to, I'm fortunate enough to have a co-founder and a team, but I think for many people it must be very difficult when you're on your own
yeah,
trying to do the right thing, but you've also got to pay the bills. and
exactly.
and finding that right level of push to have is a very difficult balance, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. What I recently started doing in terms of like finding that balance is just ask questions without like worrying, without having expectations
Mm.
uh, in my discovery call. So, for example, if I get on a this is out of topic, but I think it's worth
No, go ahead.
saying it. Yeah. So when I get in the discovery call, and where like I see that the potential client is interesting, things like that, I just ask like, it is okay if I go ahead and send you the proposal? It is like something that you're still interested in? And they're most likely like to say yes, but this is getting the confirmation and not just sending an email with a huge offer or a affordable offer, whatever the offer is, and just wondering why they haven't replied back or following up a million times. I follow
Yeah.
up one time and that's it. If they
Yeah.
want to work with me, they will.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think there's yeah, it seems like a great approach to be taking, Chris. I love it.
Thank you.
I I guess I know we're almost at the end of the
Yeah.
half hour, so I guess one of the things I like to ask guests is, what do you see for the future of maybe your business, Chris, or maybe the future of podcasting?
Mhm.
I don't know if that's too broad of a topic, but I'm
Yeah.
intrigued to hear your thoughts. Any thoughts on that? I'm not asking for a prediction or a guaranteed outcome, but do you have any thoughts on how things may change over the next few years?
Yeah, I think that with the rise of so many platforms investing in short form content, definitely video will be like top things people will invest on, because it makes sense to have a video podcast and repurpose the video, pull off like pull off shorts to spread to different platforms. It makes sense because repurposing it's easy with podcasting, but I think video will keep us occupied, and also with the recent changes on YouTube, I think YouTube will surprise us with different things that podcasters can take advantage of and can benefit from.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think video will be on the things that will people will invest more. And I don't have any, any other thoughts on this. But yeah,
No, thank you for sharing. I guess one question I had to add on this is, do you have any thoughts on I know everyone and their dog is talking about AI
yeah,
and how that seems to be eating the world or not. Do you have any thoughts on
yeah.
how that could change anything in the landscape, Chrissa? Like good or bad?
Yeah, we could talk like just for AI for one episode, but in a nutshell,
Yeah.
I think that AI can simplify our workflows and
Right, right.
processes, and can speed up things, because
Yeah.
a podcast production takes a lot of time if we think of, or even think of it for
Mm,
pre-production to publishing an episode.
yeah.
But I think that it will simplify our lives as podcaster or as podcast managers, but it takes it you always need a human eye, a human
Mm,
ear, things like that, um to make the process smoother, and to
sure.
ensure that whatever you put into their world is listenable, is viewable,
Yeah.
is as it's supposed to be, for
Yeah.
depending on one's goals. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. I know everyone has an opinion on AI.
Yeah.
I won't be adding mine to the mix, but I think it's really interesting to hear your thoughts on that, Krisa.
Thank
Thank
you.
you. Um, Before we wrap up, did you have any other advice you wanted to share before we wrap? I know you've already given some wonderful thoughts on how people can engage their audiences and use podcasting as a way to grow their business. I didn't know if you wanted to share any other tips or anything, Krisa, or
Yeah. So the last thing I would like to share is specifically for sustainability business owners and people in this field, is that um, because I've encountered like a lot, I found out that those people usually don't want to rely on or don't get along, like they don't resonate with the approach of posting short form content or trying to get their message across in 60 seconds. So if those people are listening and want to make an impact in terms of marketing their business, I would recommend podcasting for a lot of different reasons, as we already shared. And usually, like if you don't want to be exposed on video and you don't want to be on camera, there are a lot of audio podcasts that crushing it out there. So yeah, you can do it from your comfort of your home, and also put your voice out there to speak to the people they want to hear from you.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure thing. Sure thing. That's what a wonderful way to wrap up. A very helpful advice there, Chrysa, for a lot of listeners of this show, I'm sure. So I think that's brilliant, and I'm glad we're maybe taking some of your advice on board already, and to make
I'm
this show
glad.
better.
I'm glad.
I've got a lot of homework to do after this, Chrysa.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Yeah. And if you have questions, please reach out.
Yes, no, thank you so much for joining me on the show, Chrysa. It's been an absolute pleasure speaking with you. For those who want to go and learn more, they can connect with you on LinkedIn, right? And you have your website,
Yeah.
Chrysa.
Don't try to spell it.
You're gonna have to do that for me, because no, we'll link to your website in the show notes.
Yeah.
Unless you want, how do you say that, Chrysa?
It's Chrysa Sto, but
There we
I
go.
think if you tap chrysasto.com, it redirects you to my website. So yeah.
Amazing,
Yeah.
amazing. I'll be sure to check that out, and I'll work on the pronunciation.
Yeah. No, thank you so much for having me. It's been really fun to talk to you. I hope that we got to, get some valuable tips for your listeners. And yeah, I'm excited I'm excited for what to tune in to more episodes and
Amazing.
keep connecting with you.
Thank you, Chrysa. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll catch you again very soon.
Yeah.